details of it, but
Woo! Boom! $50
God.
super chat by Randall. Dude,
When will
Dang,
the
Randall
bad on the
Baller.
wall?
Randall Baller. Aaron, when will
Randall.
the bad on wall post be up?
Okay. So I've already done all the measurements I want for that. But man, honestly, I've got some other things I need to get done first. So it could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months. I really don't know, but I'm hoping soon. But the bottom line really is not going to be that I'm picking on any particular speaker. It's just that, on wall speakers just aren't generally good. Because you can't build a speaker to mitigate the issues that you have from placing it on a wall. You can't. There's a dip that comes along from the sound being reflected from the wall behind it. Yeah. And it's a pretty big dip, depending on the depth of the speaker. And then the width of the speaker plays a part into it too. So the point will be that, on-wall speakers aren't great, but I want to show some reasons why I say that. Maybe try to provide some solutions, I guess. People are talking about putting foam behind them. And I'm just like, well, that's not going to help because the foam will have to be super thick and you're pushing the speaker off the wall to put the foam behind it. So that's not going to work.
And okay, how about this?
Installation foam around it? Because I saw when somebody said that, I actually said, what happens if you put foam around it? Because, you have your calculation about the distance and the wavelength. But from my understanding, the closer you get it to the wall, the higher in frequency the cancellation will be. And the foam, bass is the hardest because the foam has to be super thick,
right,
to cancel it. Mm-hmm. So if you get it high enough in frequency, I noticed that most of the 3-inch, 4-inch can handle the frequencies that seem to be affected. Does that make sense?
Well, so yeah, I think I know what you're saying, and this is without me actually looking into it more. The majority of the speakers that I'm testing and looked at for on-wall purposes are deep enough to where that frequency, that big notch, is anywhere from 300 hertz to 600 hertz, and to absorb down to even 600 hertz is going to take you some pretty thick material. And the other thing too is that it comes from the wall behind it. So I don't think that you're going to be able to put foam around the speaker enough to where, or any kind of lining around the speaker on the wall enough to where it's going to help. And if you did, it's going to look hideous, right? I mean, it's basically going to be like you put pillows around your speaker all the way around it. It's not going to look
right. Frame. You just make
it's a picture frame.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, I think it would have to be pretty darn, well, let's just, do the math real fast. So divided by 4, divided by 300 hertz. So
the math's about $50. So
11. So just to absorb a quarter wave, you're looking at, for 300 hertz to absorb a quarter wave, you're looking at 11 inches. Right. And then if you want to do 500, that's going to be about almost 7 inches. So yeah, I just don't see, again, this is just kind of off the cuff. I haven't really looked into it too much. And that's another reason why it's going to take me a little bit of time, because I don't want to just dump a video out there with some measurements and say, here you go. I kind of want to try to explain a little bit more about it.
Well, I'm actually looking to review a speaker from Heiko because, I reviewed some of their stuff. Yeah. And one of the issues with ultra short throw is there's no place to put a center channel. So they have the series. It's called not the Aurora. That's the one that I reviewed. Forgot the name, but it's an on-wall. But they have a center channel that kind of matches the decor of the other ones, right? Same look and same tweeter. And I figured, hey, this might work for ultra short throw because I could just throw that on the wall. And I think mounted, it's about 4 inches deep. Is that about the same as some of the other ones you're looking at?
Oh, no. So, well, except for there's a Polk little array that's that center channel. It's probably 4 inches or more. Maybe 6 inches deep. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. So that's the shortest one. The ones that I'm really looking at are bookshelf speakers, right? Okay. Where they say, it comes with mounting. You can put on the wall, and it's like, you can, but just don't expect great sound. Understand that it's going to be compromised, and that's really what it's about.
So what happens, let's say, with 4 inches off the wall? What frequency are we looking at there?
4 inches off the wall?
Yeah, with your calculation there.
Oh, if it's 4 inches, let's see here. About 843 hertz. Give or take.
Not that I'm going to do it.
but it's also not just yeah. The other thing is too is it's not where the dip is, it's the width, like the Q. Messing with EQs, you understand what Q means. So it's the Q of the dip, and it's the level of the dip. So how wide is it? Yeah, exactly. How wide is it, and how deep is that notch? If it's I mean. Again, I think it's just a bad idea. I think you would only do it if you don't really have another option. But I think, and myself included, that a lot of people thought at first, put them on a wall, that'll help the bass. But what happens is it creates a big suck out in the mid range. So you may be getting a few extra dB in bass, but it's not worth it.
Well, it's kind of funny because in wall doesn't have that.
Yeah, in-wall doesn't have that problem. Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I want to play around with some more in-wall speakers. I think if you got a choice between on-wall and in-wall, you go in-wall. That's easy.
So it's kind of confusing to me, right? Like in-wall, all right, good, no issues. But the moment that baffle starts to come out, that's when it becomes an issue. But like, where's the sweet spot? Like I don't want to make a hole in the wall.
There's not one.
Is there? Man.
I don't really think there is one. So like, some companies make really thin panel mount speakers, Kef is one that I can think of off the top, but I've seen other ones that make really, really thin speakers, and you're supposed to put them on the wall. And if they're designed well, then they're not too bad in that regard, but they're still going to have that dip. And that dip isn't just on axis. That dip is like as you move around. So it changes in frequency, right? Like it may be at like a lower frequency here, and as you move higher or off to the side of it, that frequency will start shifting. Right. So it's like no, all the way up until it's not a problem anymore because you're directly like you're 90 degrees off to the side. So.
All right. So what's the distance where it's 80 hertz? Because maybe that's the way to fix it.
You're close to like 3 feet. I mean, so that's one of the reasons why people tell you to play speakers like 3 feet from the wall, is because you put it far enough out where ideally you're going to push that dip and basically the comb filtering pattern from the rear wall reflection. You're going to push it low enough in frequency where it's not as much of an issue to get around. Like, right. Then you start using subwoofers to help remedy that. And maybe you can use bass traps and stuff like that too. So, but that's why this stuff is not super easy. I mean, really at the end of the day, that's why home audio, especially car audio, but home audio isn't super duper easy. You kind of got to find that, like you said, that sweet spot between how far do I want to bring them out? How far do I want to push them up? What kind of treatments do I want to use? Do I want to use multiple subs? Do I want to use equalization? So
well, 3 feet is pretty crazy, right?
Unless, I mean, that's kind of the de facto standard in audio. If you want a great setup, they always say bring them out 3 feet into your room and 3 feet off the side walls. And I'm like, most people
3 feet
can't do that. Yeah, they say a meter, 3 feet or a meter, which
that looks hilarious though, right? In most houses, unless you have a huge house where you're like, whatever,
exactly.
Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. And then to me, it's like, what are you doing with the dead space behind it? It's no longer a functional room at that point. It's got to be basically a dedicated listening room, right? I mean, if you've got a speaker 3 feet out from the wall, it's not like you're not going to be walking behind them all the time. It's not like it's your living room and I'm just going to walk behind the speaker or I'm going to put stuff up behind it.
Yeah.
They've just taken so much of your room, you might as well just knock off 3 feet off that wall.
Just take off the whole wall and make the whole wall. That's where it starts.
Well, that's what I did with my theater room. That's why I built that baffle wall, because I was like, I've got these speakers so far out. Man, I just build a wall and then hide everything else behind it. Anyway, I'm sure everybody else is like, who cares on wall?
No, that's real interesting though, right? Because it doesn't matter what kind of speakers you get. It doesn't matter if you have the best speakers. They're still going to exhibit that thing that you're talking about because it's just acoustics. It's not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be a compromise.
Interesting stuff. And by the way, thank you again for that crazy super chat.
Yeah. $49.99.
Yeah. You
awesome.
see what happens.
Thank you so much.
When you have a super chat like that, we just stop what we're talking about and we'll get at you.
Pew.
Right at you.
Right into it. That was a good question though. And I appreciate him asking, because it's nice to know that people are interested in that. Because when you put stuff like that, you don't know if anybody cares.
Oh yeah.
You just don't know. It's a risk. You go through all this time to make a video that you hope is helpful to people, and then you might put it out there, and it's like nobody watches it. And you're like, oh, well, that sucks. Like I wasted a lot of time putting that together, and nobody's interested. So it's good when people care about the stuff that you're putting out.
Well, I like the stuff that you did with the center channel also because it's more about, it's knowledge that you can apply.
Right.
And it's
not
not
brand specific. Exactly.
It's more like, oh, now I know how to do this thing. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's actionable. We've talked before about how sometimes we talk about data and this and that. It's like, all right, that's cool, but what can I do about it? Like, can I do anything about it? No. Right.
Yeah. What
can I do something about it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can't do anything. But if you can make better choices as far as like what speakers to buy, if you can pull the speakers 3 feet away, if you can,